Which modern 2D platformer's better? Super Mario Bros. Wonder or Sonic Superstars? The reviewing giants have Superstars at around a 70 to 75%, while Wonder sits at like a 90 to 95, but the Google reviews have them within 1% of each other. So what's really going on here? Does the Mario franchise benefit from favoritism? Was the craving for a unique feeling 2D Mario that bad? Or is this a genuine masterpiece, while Sega once again slips up with 2D Sonic and gives us a mid-ass Sonic game? Let's dive in. It's important to take context into consideration when talking about these games. Not the fact that they came out so close to each other, rather, the state of each series leading up to their release. Sonic was coming off one of his highest praised 2D games ever in Sonic Mania, while 2D Mario only saw the Mario Maker games release in the decade prior. And before that, nothing but the most generic and run-of-the-mill games the franchise had ever seen. But even still, the most recent game was over a decade old, while Mania was still relatively recent. So regardless of the game itself, a new 2D Mario game is going to receive a hell of a lot more hype than a new 2D Sonic. Even more so because Mario. The jump from New Super Mario Bros. U to Mario Wonder is monumental, while the jump from Mania to Superstars isn't nearly as significant. Graphically it is, but I mean in terms of gameplay and level design. So right out the gate, Wonder's at the advantage, and the critical overreactions with this game prove that all too well.
Wonder feels like a 21st century successor to Super Mario World, and I'm not sure I can give it a higher compliment than that.
Am I a joke to you?
I'm a massive Mario fan, and the hype is real. But even I can admit, these reviewers might be taking it too far. For as much crap as we give New Super Mario Bros., it's a really freaking quality and fun series. It just doesn't push the Mario franchise forward. So I don't know if I'm totally ready to write off all these games for something that just came out and I was eagerly awaiting for months. Let's sit on this for a while and revisit the conversation when the hype dies down a bit, so we can be more objective. With that said, here's the part where I praise Mario Wonder. It finds the perfect balance between a familiar feeling Mario platformer and a wildly creative new experience that keeps you guessing from start to finish. Wonder Flowers are the biggest addition to Mario since the side scroll. You'll be moving through a pretty normal feeling Mario level and all of a sudden get sent on an acid trip. You never know what to expect with these, and that's what makes them so great. It surprised me just how many different things they did. I thought it'd be a handful of abilities spread across all the levels, but almost every single one of these was a one and done, which was genuinely impressive. How they managed to think up so many different and equally absurd gameplay gimmicks, I have no idea, but I'm grateful as hell for it. They're the main power-up of the game, and overshadow the more traditional Mario power-ups, despite the elephant being more heavily advertised. Honestly, this thing's just okay. Didn't feel all that different from like the cat in 3D World. You can swing your trunk and spray some water. Whoop-de-doo, wowie zowie. I actually liked the other two power-ups better. The Bubble Flower lets you shoot bubbles to kill enemies and make temporary platforms for yourself, and the Drill Mushroom lets you bury yourself in floors and ceilings. Very fun ideas. The only, and I mean only, change that I didn't like is that they removed the triple jump. That made speeding through levels so much more fluid, and without it, moving quickly is just not as enjoyable. That's a very minor gripe, but it's worth calling out. The most underrated new addition is definitely the badges, which I didn't pay much attention to before launch, but they have a massive impact on gameplay and can completely change the way you tackle a level. They're also unique too. Once I got the Celeste-like wall jump, I thought I'd just stick with it, but each one I unlocked got better and better. Mild spoilers here, but there's one that gives you a Mario 2-like high jump, a dolphin one that makes water levels actually tolerable, or dare I say, fun, and a frickin' Spider-Man vine shooter. And you're switching between them all the time, because whenever you die, you have the option to set a new one. So if one helps more for a certain situation, you can easily make the switch to clear a tough section. They implemented these flawlessly, but in doing so, it kinda overshadows the appeal of having so many playable characters. If they instead limited some to specific characters only, to maybe coincide with their past abilities, like a higher jump for Luigi and a hover for Peach, it would incentivize the switch a hell of a lot more. But since any character can use any of these badges, I honestly just forgot to switch after picking Daisy initially. It's awesome to have so many playable characters, but there's not much reason to try them all out because they don't play all that differently. Obviously Yoshi has the flutter jump and Nabbit can't die, but for a roster of 12 characters, there's only 3 unique gameplay styles. That's actually one of Sonic Superstars' greatest strengths. There's 4 playable characters that each have unique attributes. While they all move pretty quickly and have a spin dash, Tails can fly, Knuckles can glide and climb, and Amy has a double jump and does this little hammer spin when she's in midair. But what makes that so great is that the levels have paths that can only be accessed by certain characters, and that adds so much replay value to every stage. And that's not all. As you collect Chaos Emeralds, you unlock new Emerald powers, which give you even more new ways to explore levels. They reveal hidden platforms, let you move up waterfalls, and create beanstalks out of thin air, just to name a few. And they're honestly a lot of fun to play around with. They're not as game-changing as the Wonder Flowers, or even the badges, but they do enough to make the experience feel new. And since you get them gradually throughout the game, to test every ability out on every stage, you'll have to go back and play levels again, building that replay value even more. Sonic's always been great at this. The levels are intrinsically built with replayability in mind, even without any of that fancy stuff. Instead of just dying when you miss a jump, you fall to a lower path, and now you want to know what that upper route looks like. So what do? That's also why most Sonic games don't have that many stages. They've got to cram like 50 different paths into every single one, where Mario just has 1 or 2. Sonic as a character has potential to move quickly, but labeling his gameplay as fast-paced is just flat out wrong in a lot of cases. Sure, there's what I'll call these spectacle moments, where you basically just hold forward and watch Sonic run through a loop-de-loop or something, but the parts that require player input tend to be slower than Mario at the start. Above all else, Sonic stages are constructed around trial and error, making your first run through the game kinda slow and painful. Unless you've got wicked quick reflexes, I'm talking cat on steroids, you're not taking an optimal route. Instead, you're smacking into walls and enemies are killing you left and right. You only get to move quickly as a reward for memorizing a level's layout. Where Mario lays out the challenges in front of you and puts your pure platforming skills to the test, Sonic makes you learn the levels by playing them again and again. That's also why something like Mario Maker works so well and a Sonic Maker wouldn't. Mario's gameplay is more focused on the tight mechanics for people to master, and Sonic's is more so centered around the level structures themselves, so they have to be much more carefully curated. That also gives each Sonic game a steep learning curve, and this is no exception, which is kind of a good thing. One of the only complaints with Wonder is that it's once again too easy, and I kinda agree. The special world got pretty tough, but the badges made most anything else pretty much a cakewalk. This game, on the other hand, is difficult, and it pissed me off on multiple occasions. I'm also just very used to easy games. This wasn't crazy challenging or anything, but it legitimately killed me a couple times, with some jank bullshit sprinkled in there. But that's been a staple of Sonic since the beginning. The hardest sections were definitely the boss fights, and it was really refreshing to see. Some of these took a lot of attempts, where not a single Mario boss killed me. Another area where Superstars has the edge is co-op, which surprised me too, since Mario's been doing it since 2009, and this is Sonic's very first attempt, but I mean it. As I said before, these games don't move nearly as fast as they say, and while things do get pretty wonky for those spectacle sections, I found it to still be more seamless than Mario Wonder. For one, when a player's off screen, they can press a button to spawn in right where the other player is. When in Mario, you turn into a ghost and have to try and bump into the other players, which takes way more time, and seems to happen more often. I credit that to the camera being so much closer in Wonder, where Superstars gives you a little bit more breathing room. Also, I'm sorry, but the crown thing for camera control is really dumb. Everybody has a different playstyle. Some like to slow down and look for secrets, others take a steady pace, and some just beeline for the exit. At least when it follows the fast player, you can just tell the guy to slow down. This way overcomplicates things, and instead of just feeling chaotic like the older games, this is just harder to follow. And since you can't collide with other players, it feels a lot less like you're working together. You can't bounce off someone's head for extra height or throw your brother into a lava pit, which makes the experience way less interactive. Sonic's integration is by no means perfect, but it's certainly more functional. All that being said though, Super Mario Wonder is the much better game. I wish I could be all controversial and say Sonic's better, but there's really no way to argue that. It's an enjoyable 2D Sonic game, and while it doesn't quite emulate the Genesis gameplay, I think as its own thing, it's an excellent modern adaptation of 2D Sonic. Leading up to this game's release, I was very cautious. He doesn't have the best track record, and Christian Whitehead not being involved had me worried. But I was pleasantly surprised. Mario Wonder, on the other hand, you just knew was going to be a banger. Switch-era Nintendo doesn't disappoint. They're doing so well that they can afford to experiment a little bit, and you can tell they took their time to handcraft a generational experience. Again, I don't want to jump the gun and say it's the best 2D Mario ever, or even the best since Mario World, but as of right now, it certainly feels like it. I want to know your thoughts on this though. Did both of these games meet your expectations, and which one do you think is better? Let me know down in the comments, and check out this video, where I talk about the first game in both of these series. Thanks for watching.